After I accidentally drugged my nemesis, Ethan Vance, we got locked in a room together. As I trembled and begged for mercy, he just bit my chin gently, his voice husky. "Isn't this your own damn fault for being reckless?" he said. "Now, no matter how tired you are, you're going to take it." The next day, before I made a run for it, I was still talking tough, mocking him for being weak and having no stamina. But 3 days later, he became my new stepbrother in our blended family and moved into my house. That night, my dad stood outside my door, warning me not to get on the bad side of the man in charge of the Vance Corporation. On the other side of the wall, Ethan had me sitting on his lap. He'd gagged me with his tie and was smirking. "Little sister," he said, "you had the guts to call me weak. Let's see if you have the guts not to cry tonight." Ethan Vance was leaning back on the sofa, his dark eyes fixed on me. Dangerous and intense. I pressed myself against the door. I tried to yank the handle while trembling and trying to explain. "Ethan, it wasn't me, it really wasn't." The guy was completely unmoved. His expression was placid, and it was clear he didn't believe me. The hotel room door was locked from the outside. Just as I was wrestling with the lock, Ethan tossed his tie aside and started walking toward me. In that moment, I wished I could melt into the wall and just disappear. Thankfully, Ethan just walked past me and into the bathroom. I immediately whipped out my phone to call my bestie, on the verge of a meltdown. "Why would you drug Ethan Vance? Nina, didn't you say he's always messing with you and you can't stand him?" "I was just helping you get some payback." I closed my eyes. I walked over to the coffee table, poured a glass of water, and chugged it down, trying to calm my anger. I said, "But you locked me in the same room with him." After a few seconds of silence, she said, "I'll get someone to open the lock right now." After hanging up, my mouth felt strangely dry, so I drank another glass of water. When Ethan came out of the bathroom, I was about to drink a third. "Nina." He eyed me dispassionately. "What are you drinking?" My thoughts were starting to slow down. Looking at him, I slowly let out a little, "Huh?" Ethan calmly walked over, leaned in, and trapped me between himself and the sofa, looking down at me. "You did this on purpose?" he asked slowly. "You want to sleep with me?" My eyes went wide. I stood up and pushed him away. "Ethan, what are you even thinking? Don't you know how much I hate you?" Blushing, I pushed him down onto the sofa and straddled his lap. My gaze traced every feature of his face. Wherever my eyes went, my hands followed. "Where do you get all this confidence? Haven't you noticed? You're actually really ugly." I started analyzing him with a straight face. "Don't you think your nose is too high? And your eyes?" My voice got quieter and quieter until I didn't dare speak anymore. Ethan's face was so close that if I opened my mouth, I'd kiss him. Ethan pinched my cheek lightly, staring at me. "Why do you hate me so much?" I flinched back a little. After hesitating, I mumbled, "Because you like Victoria. Victoria's dad and my dad work at the same company. But her dad is higher up on the board. Victoria used that to look down on me our whole lives. She became the person I hate most." Ethan looked like he didn't understand, frowning as he asked, "I like who?" The temperature in the room had crept up without me noticing. It was stuffy and unsettling. I fought through the discomfort to present my case. "In our freshman year of college, I saw your car pick her up at the campus gate." The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. As I spoke, I slapped him across the face. Victoria said. It was her admirer picking her up. Ethan pulled my hand away and gave a half-hearted explanation. He just said he'd lent the car to a friend for a while before he came back to the country and that he'd never liked Victoria. I nodded slowly, as if I understood completely. "You're ugly, so it's pretty normal she wasn't into you." Ethan gave a noncommittal smirk and didn't argue. I thought he didn't believe me, so I said earnestly, "Like your eyes, for example." I stared at his fluttering eyelashes and mumbled, "Don't move." As if possessed, I cupped his face and kissed his eyelid. In that instant, the simmering anxiety inside me was soothed for a moment. My voice went soft as I tried to bargain with him. If I kiss it, it'll stop moving, okay? Ethan's Adam's apple bobbed. His gaze darkened. Seeing this, I leaned down and kissed his Adam's apple. Ethan closed his eyes and leaned his head back against the sofa. He let out a low, deep hum. Nina. I stopped studying his throat and looked up at him. Ethan's voice was husky. Who taught you how to flirt like this? I just felt dizzy all over and didn't understand what he was saying. The man sat up, took my hand, and placed it on the collar of his rumpled shirt. He let me play with the buttons. Kiss wherever it moves, is that the rule? I touched my flushed ears and nodded. The tip of Ethan's nose, the one I had just criticized, brushed against mine. He coaxed me, what if my mouth moves? I leaned in and gave him a light peck. My voice was like a melting gummy bear, sweet and soft. That gets a kiss, too. Every time Ethan murmured a word, I'd peck him with a kiss, like a little bird. Until Ethan answered a call. Mr. Vance, I'm downstairs at the hotel. I'm bringing someone up to pick the lock and deliver the antidote right away. Hearing the words pick the lock, I felt a little resistant. I looked at Ethan with hazy eyes. Does this mean no more kissing? He hit the mute button. He casually stroked my chin. If I kiss you, will you take responsibility for me? I stared eagerly at his cool, firm lips and nodded emphatically. Yes, I'll take responsibility. Ethan unmuted the call and told the person on the other end, you don't need to come up. Why, Mr. Vance? He swept me up into his arms, his voice impossibly low and husky. I have the antidote. Then he hung up. Ethan said he'd only had half a glass. I couldn't figure out why the drug wore off for me an hour after I'd had 2 full glasses, while he still looked like he hadn't gotten any relief at all. He ignored me whether I was playing dead, refusing to cooperate, or softening up and begging him to stop. He even found time to sneer at me. Isn't this your own damn fault for being reckless? Now, no matter how tired you are, you're going to take it. No matter how I tried to explain it wasn't me, he didn't believe it. The next day. Of course, maybe because the dose was too high. I woke up with a total memory gap. I only remembered feeling woozy after 2 glasses of water, and then Ethan carrying me into the bedroom. I turned my head and looked at Ethan, who was still fast asleep, holding me in his arms. I quickly came to a conclusion. That bastard must have tricked me and used me as his human antidote. Just then, Ethan woke up. Our eyes met. He pulled me tighter, resting his chin on my neck, his voice thick with exhaustion. Sorry, last night. I could already guess the rest of the sentence would be something like, was just an accident. It's fine. I cut him off coolly. I sat up and replied nonchalantly. I'm not making a big deal out of it, Ethan. He froze for a second, then stared at me, his expression blank and his tone icy. What do you mean? Remembering that he was still chasing Victoria, a strange wave of disappointment washed over me. I let out a breath, trying to maintain some dignity. I efficiently gathered my clothes and said calmly. I mean that once we walk out of this room, I hope we both forget what happened last night. I really don't want to have anything to do with you. Ethan sat up, watching me without blinking, the sheet pooled around his waist. Nina. Are you playing me? I was focused on getting dressed and didn't really hear him. But before I left, I couldn't resist taking one last parting shot. Mr. Vance, you're weak and have no stamina. Remember to tell your future girlfriend to keep her mouth shut, so you don't become the laughingstock of our circle. It would be too embarrassing. My timing was perfect. The second the words were out, I slammed the door shut. I gave him no chance to argue or get the last word. At the hotel entrance, I ran into Victoria and her little cronies. Well, if it isn't Nina. Coming out of a hotel this early in the morning? You're pretty shameless. I was already feeling a little guilty and planning to sneak away. But her first words were so grating they actually made me laugh out of anger. I deliberately raised my voice and shot back. "What did you say, Victoria? Is everyone who stays at this hotel shameless?" Instantly, everyone in the hotel lobby turned to look. Their stares were like tiny needles pricking Victoria's skin. Furious and embarrassed, she strode forward and shoved me. "Nina, are you crazy?" Caught off guard, I stumbled back a few steps until I slammed into one of the hotel's glass doors. My left ankle twisted as I lost my balance. Hiss. I gasped in pain. Before I could retaliate, Victoria's attention was diverted by footsteps behind me. Her friend gushed. "Victoria, do you know that gorgeous guy? I think he's coming right for you." Victoria shrugged, putting on her best princess act. "He's been chasing me for ages. I've been thinking about whether I should finally say yes." The footsteps got closer. Gritting my teeth against the pain in my ankle, I used the door for support and hurried away. I didn't dare to look back once. But their conversation still echoed in my ears. "Hey handsome, I have a question, don't take this the wrong way. But you look a little disheveled. Kind of like that girl we were just arguing with." Ethan's voice was too low for me to hear. Then the woman's voice again. Oh, no wonder. Pulling an all-nighter for work, it's totally normal not to have time to tidy up. Totally normal. I blinked my dry eyes and forced a small smile. I was glad I'd taken the initiative to draw a line between me and Ethan. It was obvious. He didn't want anything to do with me either. After that day, Ethan called me once. I panicked, hung up, and blocked his number. Just in case, I even changed my phone number immediately. But 3 days later, I saw him again. There was no avoiding it. It was at my house. My dad's fiancée, Anna, was moving in with us. And with her came Ethan Vance. Anna patted my hand gently and introduced him. "Nina, I never mentioned it before, but this is my son, Ethan. You can just call him your brother. Your brother just got back to the country, and his place isn't done with renovations yet. Nina, do you think you could let him stay here for a little while?" I really wanted to say, "He's loaded, can't he just rent a suite?" But when I met Anna's gentle, pleading gaze, the refusal got stuck in my throat. It came out as, "No problem, Anna." I lowered my head, not daring to look at Ethan. My voice was stiff. "Make yourself at home, brother." Ethan let out an indecipherable scoff. He didn't reply. All day, Ethan acted completely normal. It was as if he'd already forgotten what happened 3 days ago. It wasn't until dinner that my dad suddenly asked me, "Nina, are you free tomorrow? Mr. Lee's son is your age, also a junior in college. He saw your picture and wants to meet up. What do you think?" The classic, painfully direct parent-arranged blind date. I sullenly poked at the rice in my bowl, trying to figure out how to answer. Suddenly, Ethan spoke up. "She's not free." Then, he unhurriedly explained to our parents. "My sister asked me to help her edit a paper tonight." He slowly raised his eyes, his gaze landing directly on my face. "It'll probably be an all-nighter." Dad didn't think much of it. He nodded, "All right, we'll schedule it for another time then." I was so shocked my chopsticks clattered onto the table. Dad looked at me, confused. "What's wrong, Nina?" Ethan looked completely at ease. Under the growing suspicion of my dad and Anna, I nodded and forced out the words. "My brother is right." I waited until 11 p.m., but Ethan never showed up. I let out a sigh of relief, grabbed my nightgown, and went to the bathroom. When I came out after blow-drying my hair, there was a knock on the door. It was the last person I wanted to see. I opened the door a crack and gave Ethan a polite smile. "Brother, it's pretty late tonight. We can work on the paper tomorrow." He snorted, not bothering to lower his voice. "Nina, don't play dumb with me. Either let me in, or we settle the score right here." I don't mind letting them know that you used me and ditched me. I snapped my head up, staring in disbelief at this man who was turning the tables on me. My dad's room was also on the second floor, not far away. I heard the sound of his doorknob turning. I didn't hesitate any longer. I threw the door open and pulled Ethan inside. A second later, my dad's familiar footsteps sounded outside. There was a veiled anger in Ethan's eyes. With one arm, he lifted me onto the desk and leaned in to kiss me. Peach. It was an aggressive kiss that left me no room to breathe. My dad stopped at my door. Nina, are you asleep? I had to bite Ethan to make him let me go. What is it, Dad? I struggled to even out my ragged breaths, my nerves stretched to their absolute limit. Meanwhile, Ethan had already undone his tie and was leisurely wrapping it around my hands. His posture was relaxed. His kisses trailed from my forehead to the tip of my nose. The troublemaker didn't seem to care at all that someone was right outside. His deep, husky voice murmured. Little sister, what exactly does weak mean? If you think 2 hours is weak, then tonight your big brother will give you double the service. My dad's voice came from the door again. If you're not asleep, can I come in? I pressed down on Ethan's hands and yelled frantically at the door. Don't. Dad, wait. I raised my hands to push against Ethan's approaching chest. Can you let me talk first? Ethan finally lifted his head from my neck, a mocking smirk on his lips. Did you give me time to talk that day? There was a dark fire in his eyes that looked ready to consume me. Dad was still waiting at the door, so I had no choice but to give in. I had to placate Ethan first. When my dad leaves, I'll listen to everything you have to say, okay? I'll listen carefully this time, I swear. I promised him solemnly. Ethan's reaction was still lukewarm. He propped his hands on the desk on either side of my legs, trapping me in front of him, and looked down at me. Kiss me. That was his condition for backing down. From the doorway, Dad called my name again, more urgently this time. I looked at Ethan, pleading. The man was unmoved. I had no other choice. I tilted my head up and brushed my lips against his. Ethan chased the kiss, nipping the tip of my tongue before letting me go. I steadied my breathing and opened the door a tiny crack. I just poked my head out. Did you need something, Dad? Dad sighed and said earnestly. I could tell today that you and your brother Ethan were lying about editing a paper tonight. Otherwise, why hasn't he come to find you yet? My heart clenched. I was incredibly sensitive to just hearing Ethan's name. Dad continued in a questioning tone. Nina, is it that you don't want to go on the blind date? Ethan's patience seemed to have run out. While I was talking to my dad, he had already moved behind the door. His hand grasped my waist, and he placed a light kiss on my shoulder, hidden in the shadows. In a very, very low whisper, he breathed. Answer him. Isn't he asking if you want to go on a date, little sister? I was so nervous my thoughts were a jumbled mess. I didn't dare move. After all, only a single door separated my dad from Ethan. If he pushed the door open even slightly, he'd see the man currently kissing my shoulder. I swallowed hard and pretended to be calm. Wanting to end the conversation as quickly as possible, I just gave a non-committal answer. I'm fine with whatever, Dad. The next second, Ethan bit my shoulder. I managed to stifle a gasp. Dad didn't seem to notice anything amiss, just said. That's good. I'll be sure to pick out a good match for you. The footsteps faded. Dad was finally back in his room. The instant the door closed, Ethan spun me around and pinned me against it. His hands pressed down on my shoulders, and not gently. A smile still played on his lips, but the atmosphere around him grew colder. You just gave me your first time, and now you want to go on a date with someone else? Am I just someone you can hook up with and not take responsibility for? Is that it? Just as he finished speaking, his phone rang. While Ethan answered it, my mind was racing. Was that a backhanded confession? I looked down, helplessly clutching the hem of my dress. Ethan ended the call, his cool gaze sweeping over me. Before he could speak, and before I had even sorted out my own thoughts, I blurted out. I'll take responsibility for you. My enthusiastic response seemed to soothe him, and the coldness in his eyes softened a little. He was about to say something when his phone rang again. He glanced at the screen, then gently pinched my earlobe and murmured. I have an emergency meeting right now. I'll come find you when I'm done, I nodded, my earlobe turning bright red under his fingertips. Ethan kissed my forehead, his gentle voice amplifying the charged atmosphere in the room. Good girl. The next morning, Ethan still hadn't come back from the office. When my dad saw I was up so early, he realized I hadn't pulled an all-nighter. So, he went ahead and arranged the blind date with Mr. Liang's son. I had planned to get to the restaurant, tell the guy I had a boyfriend, and then leave. But when I pushed open the door to the private room, I found it wasn't just my blind date inside. There was also Ethan, looking as dark and menacing as a demon. He was sitting with one leg crossed over the other, his fingers tapping idly on his knee. He looked elegant and aloof. His eyes met mine, and he slowly curled his lip into a smirk. Little sister, come meet your boyfriend. The guy across from him scratched his head, embarrassed. Not her boyfriend yet, this is our first time meeting. Ethan just smiled, not responding to him. I walked over with stiff steps, each one feeling like a struggle. Bro. Ethan didn't answer, the smile never leaving his lips. But I had a growing feeling that I was completely screwed. I had no choice but to bite the bullet and sit next to Ethan. After the guy across from me smiled and introduced himself, he suddenly asked. Nina, can I ask you something personal? Have you ever been in a relationship? Or, let me rephrase. Are you still a virgin? I froze and looked up at him. He said it was a personal question, but his expression showed no sign of apology. Ethan, who had been silent the whole time, finally spoke. He sized the guy up and shot back, are you? This Leo guy said righteously. Men and women are different, Mr. Vance. I only have one condition, I want my partner to be clean. Ethan slammed his chopsticks down, a deliberately rude gesture that was a huge slap in Leo's face. He said with a cold smile. My sister also has only one condition. She's hoping to find a person, not a dog. I'm sorry, but you don't qualify. See yourself out. The guy's face turned livid with anger, but he didn't dare cross Ethan, so he swallowed his rage and left. So satisfying. I let out a long breath, turned to Ethan, and gave him a thumbs up. I praised him with a huge grin, you have such a way with words. The air went silent. He didn't respond, just looked at me with an even darker expression than before. And now, he announced softly, it's time for us to settle our score, baby. Ethan took me to one of his properties nearby. He didn't even wait until we were in the bedroom before he started taking off his watch and tie. Nina, do you remember what you said last night? Ethan advanced on me. I backed away, obediently answering. I remember. He nodded, his eyes cold and empty. And this is how you take responsibility? All the buttons on his shirt came undone. With his collar hanging open, he pulled me into his arms. My survival instinct kicked into high gear. My voice trembled as I begged. I can explain. Ethan gave a non-committal and started studying the construction of my clothes. He pressed me against the wall and leaned down to bite at the buttons of my cardigan. You explain. I'll unbutton. But in reality, I had no energy to say much at all. I'm the type who gets winded walking up a flight of stairs. I was no match for Ethan's relentless stamina. Little sister, your explanation? He watched me coldly, unable to get a word out, and deliberately pressed me. Don't pant. Talk. Pushed to my limit, I bit down on the side of his neck. Ethan remained as unfazed as ever, his hand stroking the back of my head. What's with you? Do you just like biting people? Seeing he was about to speak again, I quickly moved to shut him up with my mouth. I didn't give him a chance to talk. Ethan was finally satisfied. He stopped saying things to provoke me. After a long while, he pulled back slightly, his lips still brushing against mine. He coaxed me in a low murmur, "Call me brother, Nina." I clung to his shoulders, my breathing unsteady. Brother. Again. Brother. Ethan and I didn't get home until evening. At dinner, I confessed to my dad that I was seeing someone, so he didn't need to set me up on any more dates. Ethan had wanted to just go public with our relationship, giving our parents no time to adjust. Worried about my dad's high blood pressure, I managed to talk him down. I agreed to admit I had a boyfriend as a compromise. Ethan, sitting across from me, raised an eyebrow at my words. It was a sign that he was pleased. One day, I finally couldn't keep it in anymore. I secretly told my bestie about my clandestine relationship with Ethan. After she heard, she was so shocked she sent a whole screen full of question marks. Then she immediately called me. "Are you crazy, Nina? Don't you hate Victoria more than anyone? Why are you picking up a guy she rejected?" I froze. Her reminder was what made me remember that Ethan had supposedly chased after Victoria. Maybe because I hadn't heard anything about Victoria in so long, I'd forgotten. I tried to explain to my bestie. But he's so good to me now. I can feel that he really, really likes me. Victoria must be in the past. My bestie is the voice of reason. She scoffed. You have no idea how destructive the one that got away can be. To Ethan, Victoria is the unattainable love of his past. If one day you and Victoria were both hanging off a cliff, do you know what he'd do? I played along. What? If you asked him that, he'd probably give you a really stupid answer, she said. He'd save Victoria, and then die with you. I was sure she'd been reading too many novels. I didn't believe her, but the thought still stuck with me. I never expected that 2 days later, a similar choice would actually happen. That day, I was killing time waiting for Ethan to get off work, wandering around the mall next to his office. For the first time in a while, I saw Victoria and her little sidekick. They had their backs to me and were pointing at something through the glass. Isn't that Ethan Vance? Take a closer look. I was standing a little too far away, and my view of what was outside the window was mostly blocked. Victoria suddenly said, "What a weakling." Her sidekick asked, "Victoria, are you sure?" Of course. He's a total weakling. I'd heard back in school that Victoria looked down on her suitor. I never thought she'd not only reject Ethan but also slander him like this. A fire shot through me. My love-addled brain took over. I marched over and righteously confronted Victoria. He is not a weakling. Victoria turned, saw me, and rolled her eyes in disgust. What the hell do you know? I stared right at her and said, word for word. He's not. You're spreading baseless rumors, you know that? Victoria's eyes bulged. Holy crap, Nina, are you a fucking idiot? What the hell is wrong with you? I wasn't about to take that, and I was just about to curse her back. But then her machine gun mouth started in on my dad. Does your family have some kind of hereditary mental illness? I heard my dad talking about it just the other day. Your dad can't even handle the most basic work tasks. He's only in his 50s, is his brain already failing him? Her sidekick chimed in like a hype man. Hereditary mental illness? For real? Victoria pursed her lips. Probably. Anyway, her dad pissed my dad off so much he got a major chewing out. My hands, hanging at my sides, clenched into fists. I walked toward her, my face a blank mask. I thought, if Victoria insults me, I'll insult her right back. An eye for an eye. But she insulted my father. Instead of insulting her father, what I really wanted to do was beat her to a pulp. In my head, I imagined a scene where I beat her until she was on her knees, begging for mercy. Then I'd plant my foot on her back and command her to apologize to my dad. But reality was far more pathetic. Not only did I get tangled up in a brawl with Victoria and her sidekick without gaining any advantage. It turned out Victoria's brother, Ryan, had been with them the whole time, just standing off to the side watching us argue. I hadn't even noticed him. When he saw us fighting, he strode over, viciously grabbed my hair to pull me away, and yelled. "You don't just have a history of mental illness, you've got anger issues too, huh?" He grabbed my head and slammed it straight into the nearby elevator door. "You psycho." More than the sharp pain, I was just stunned. It felt like a giant bell had been struck inside my head. A deafening roar exploded in my skull. More and more people were gathering to watch. Someone couldn't take it anymore and came over to pull Ryan off me, warning him. "Stop it. I've already called the police." Ryan just shrugged. "Go ahead." She started it. At the police station. I had just finished giving my statement, a giant lump on my forehead, when Ethan arrived. I looked at him, about to say something. But then I saw him glance at me, his face blank, before heading toward Victoria and her group. All my grievances turned to tears, welling up in my eyes. They started to fall, drop by drop. The next second, a chaotic commotion erupted from that direction. I turned my head to look and froze. It happened so fast. Ethan had wrapped his tie around his hand and was punching Ryan again and again. Victoria shrieked and tried to pull him off. "Mr. Vance." Without even looking up, Ethan said, "You touch me, and I'll hit you too." "I'm not kidding." Ethan grabbed Ryan by the collar and, just before the cops rushed in to separate them, he slammed the back of his head. He asked emotionlessly, "Is this how you did it, pretty boy?" Then, Ryan's head slammed hard against the glass door. The glass shattered on impact, spraying everywhere. When the police pulled Ethan away, they didn't say much. Before he'd arrived, after hearing that Ryan had hit me, a few officers had already made several sarcastic remarks to him. "Hitting a girl, you're a real piece of work, kid. Real nice." I saw the security footage. You two girls were already holding her down and beating her, and that wasn't enough? You had to bring in a big tall guy to finish the job. Ethan shook off the officer's hands and walked over to me. I had never seen him look so disheveled. His cheekbones and chin were smudged with dirt, and a fine sheen of sweat covered his skin. He raised a hand as if to touch the bandaged wound on my forehead but let it fall, exhausted. The man stared at me, his eyes red-rimmed, his voice trembling uncontrollably. "I'm sorry. I didn't take care of you." In that split second, I suddenly remembered certain forgotten fragments from that night. "Why do you hate me?" "Because you like Victoria." Ethan's scoff. "I hadn't even heard that name before you said it." It was all a misunderstanding. He had never liked Victoria. And I finally had the answer to my bestie's question about the cliff. The answer was, that situation would never happen. Because if it was Ethan, he would never let me be hanging on a cliff, in such a dangerous position, in the first place. Because Ethan had gotten violent, the situation became more complicated. After Ryan was sent to the hospital, Victoria complained to the police. It was her. She came out of nowhere and started bothering me for no reason. I was so angry I practically exploded out of Ethan's arms to retort. She insulted my boyfriend and my dad first. Victoria's face twisted in shock. Seeing Ethan's eyes flick toward her, she rushed to deny it. "No, Mr. Vance, I absolutely did not insult you. I just saw someone at the mall today whose back looked a lot like yours and mentioned it. Other than that, I definitely didn't say another word about you." Everyone's questioning gazes fell back on me. I moved my lips. After a long moment, I looked down and mumbled out. "She called my boyfriend a weakling." I heard her mention Ethan Vance, and then a second later, she said weakling. Only Victoria was jumping up and down. I was literally looking at a whippet. You know, the dog breed with the long face that looks like a bicycle seat. Her sidekick nodded timidly. "Yeah, Victoria was just telling me about that dog breed. Ah. So it was my mistake. In the end, Victoria offered to settle things, and we were finally able to leave the police station. As I led Ethan out of the police station, I couldn't stop chattering. Let me tell you, brother. I only started a fight with her today because I felt so bad for you. She rejected you, and then she had the nerve to call you a weakling. Seeing Ethan's face darken, I quickly added. Oh, you don't need to explain. I had a memory blank, but I just remembered. It was all a misunderstanding. Ethan played with the palm of my hand, his tone casual. So what did you say back then? Eager to show off, I puffed out my chest and put on a confident air. I shot her down immediately. There's no way you're a weakling. I hadn't controlled my volume, and a few coughs came from behind us. I turned around to see Victoria, her friends, and a couple of police officers all awkwardly looking away, pretending they hadn't heard a thing. I lowered my head and explained in embarrassment. I was obviously talking about your physique. Ethan nodded. Meaning other parts aren't so great. I swung his hand, humming and skipping. I didn't even realize what he meant. I didn't expect him to hold on to that sentence for a whole week. A week later, when the bruises on my body and face had pretty much healed, he began to prove himself to me. Ethan, I don't want to sit. His head was pressed against my neck, fully engrossed in his task. He gave my complaint a very perfunctory response. Your head still hasn't healed. You can't shake it around. Liar. He just likes it this way. A little while later, he had to ask me. I hear that if one part is skinny, the whole thing is called a weakling? Am I, little sister? I obediently wrapped my arms around his neck and sobbed quietly. No, you're not. After meeting Ethan, I finally understood. People who seem cold, aloof, and sexually indifferent on the outside are often secretly kinky on the inside. His naughty tastes were endless. Just as Ethan was about to let me off the hook, the phone on the nightstand suddenly rang. He never answers his phone at a time like this. But this time, breaking character, he carried me over to get it. And answered it directly. Ethan. I was horrified, hissing his name in a low voice. He turned his head to kiss me before tossing a single word into the receiver. Speak. Then he put it on speaker and tossed the phone aside. Mr. Vance, it's me, Victoria. The other day at the police station, I heard Nina say something. Did you really used to have a crush on me? I never noticed. If I unintentionally hurt you, I'm very sorry. Ethan pinched my chin, lifting my face out of his embrace. He gave me a cool, appraising look. You made this mess. I clamped my hand over his mouth, trying to warn him to keep it down. Victoria was lost in her own world, talking to herself. I just wanted to say, if you still feel that way about me, maybe we could give it a try? Ethan pulled my hand away, his tone as cold and detached as a boss speaking to an employee during a meeting. How do you plan to solve this? Victoria was getting more and more out of line. And Ethan was holding my hips, preventing me from reaching the phone. I was backed into a corner. I buried my face in his neck and, steeling myself, forced the words out. Next time, I'll sit again, okay? Ethan rewarded me with a kiss. He picked up the phone. At this hour, Ms. Cheen, all alone, did it not occur to you that you might be interrupting someone's nightlife? He was scolding her in the most civilized, impersonal tone, all while doing the most indecent things. Ethan's revenge on the Cheen family didn't end at the police station. After I heard that Ryan had been mysteriously beaten up again in the hospital and sent to the emergency room, Victoria's father also got into trouble. Someone in the industry had anonymously reported him for accepting bribes. The board of directors found evidence with surprising ease and quickly had him sent to jail. I saw the news when I was scrolling through my phone the next morning. Just then, my dad called. He shared the news with me, overjoyed. That Cheen guy is finally out. I heard Ethan's assistant was the one who delivered the evidence. Really, that kid, Ethan, even after all these years in the business world, he's still full of integrity. Nina, if you see your brother, you have to tell him to come home for dinner sometime. I'll cook for him myself. I was about to answer when the man sleeping soundly beside me woke up. His voice was lazy, and he didn't bother to lower it at all. You're up so early? He closed his eyes again and pulled me back into his arms. Come back to bed with me. My hand holding the phone was completely frozen. From the other end of the line, there was only silence and the mournful sound of the wind. I'm so screwed. At high noon, when the sun was at its most brutal, Ethan and I stood at the front door of my house. My whole body was as cold as a corpse. Before we went in, I looked at him, my heart filled with despair. I think my dad is going to kill both of us. He must not have been fully awake, because his mind was clearly in a state of chaos. He just smiled and started spouting nonsense. That sounds so romantic, to die on the same day as you. He's insane. We pushed open the door. Sure enough, we saw my father sitting on the sofa, his face grim, looking like a storm was about to break. He pointed a finger at us. Just as he was about to lay into us, his phone rang. Dad answered it. I don't know what the person on the other end said, but his expression went from blank to stunned, and finally, he shot up from his seat in surprise. I'm taking over old Sheen's position. Is that appropriate? Oh, well, if there's really no one else, I guess I can fill in for now. My dad couldn't hold back the corners of his mouth. A grin spread across his face as he lamented. How could old Sheen have been so foolish? He got sentenced to 5 years. How's he going to make it in the industry when he gets out? Ha ha ha, ahem, ahem. Ahem, ahem. He couldn't help but laugh out loud, then quickly covered it up with a fake cough. After he hung up, I didn't give him a chance to speak. I immediately ran over and hugged his arm. Wow. Dad, you're so amazing. Did you get a promotion? He wasn't falling for it. He pulled his arm away. His expression turned serious again as he looked at Ethan. Don't think that just because you took down old Sheen and pushed me into his position, I'm going to let everything slide. Do you think I'm selling my daughter? Ethan's attitude remained humble. The board recognized your ability to handle the position, Uncle Meng. I just gave things a little push. My dad was so pleased that his lips started to twitch upward again, fighting a smile. Seeing my chance, I immediately started cheering and switched to praise mode. Dad's abilities are outstanding. He's literally the most amazing dad in the world. Get out of here. He shooed me away, his face blushing. The focus shifted back to Ethan. As luck would have it, just as my dad was about to speak, he was interrupted again. Anna, misting her face with a hydrating spray, shot my dad a sideways glance. If the kids want to be together, let them be together. My dad was like a firecracker that only ever blew himself up, never hurting anyone else. They're brother and sister. Ethan calmly explained. Uncle Meng, I'm registered as my own household. It won't be an issue. Seeing my dad remain silent, Anna slammed her spray bottle on the table, clearly annoyed. She said sarcastically, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Look at you, acting like it's the end of the world. If you're really that scared of people gossiping after they get married, I can just divorce you, and then they can be together. As she spoke, she started to get up to grab their marriage certificate. My dad frantically pulled her back down. What are you talking about? He couldn't even bear to look at us, waving his hand in disgust. Go, get out of my sight. Anna shot me a conspiratorial wink. This was basically her way of giving us her approval. Before we left, when he wasn't looking, I cupped my dad's face and planted a loud kiss on his shiny forehead. I love you most, Daddy. Humph. But there was no hiding the fact that the clouds on his face had cleared, revealing the sun. A few days later, my dad invited Ethan over for a drink. He didn't let Anna or me join them. It was just a heart-to-heart between the two of them. When Ethan came back, he was a little unsteady on his feet from drinking. He cupped my face and leaned down as if to kiss me. But he stopped just before our lips touched and smiled. His deep voice was sexy and lingering. "I smell like alcohol. I'm going to take a shower first." Ethan gets very talkative when he's drunk. Carrying the fresh scent of shower gel, he pulled me onto the lounge chair on the balcony and kissed me. "I love you." He let me go and whispered, "Your dad said he's the person who loves you most in the world." I bit my lips, reddened from his kisses, and nodded. "He is." Ethan looked at me. "Me too." There was a lonely, dim light in his eyes. "But you hated me at first. I went to your campus so many times to accidentally run into you, but you'd ignore me whenever I tried to talk to you. When you got hurt, you waited for your upperclassmen to take you to the hospital instead of letting me carry you." I stared at him, my mouth agape in shock. Whenever Ethan tried to talk to me, I assumed he was asking about Victoria. And that time I got hurt. I thought he was the one who had caused it, that he was trying to help Victoria bully me. Ethan listed all his grievances. "You slept with me and then refused to take responsibility. I clearly, repeatedly, confirmed that you would take responsibility before I let you sleep with me. In the morning, I was carefully trying to apologize for not being more restrained last night, and you didn't even let me finish before you left." I thought he was on the verge of tears. He moved his lips. "You just left me alone at the hotel." This was bad. The more I listened, the more I felt like a scumbag. Okay, I was wrong. I'll make it up to you." Ethan lowered his eyes, hiding the emotion within them. "On the balcony tonight, okay?" My first instinct was to refuse. But Ethan looked so pitiful. I clutched the hem of my dress and forced myself to say okay. An hour later. "Ethan Vance, you were faking being drunk, weren't you?" His eyes were perfectly clear. "Did I say I was drunk? You were tricking me this whole time." I bit his shoulder in frustration. Ethan didn't say anything. It was only at the very last moment, as I looked into his eyes, which were softer than the moonlight, that he finally said. Not a single word was a lie. "I love you. From a long, long time ago. Back when you hated me the most. Having a secret crush was painful, but I'm so glad I waited."